So I strongly believe that the only way that we are going to change academia, to make it more welcoming, to make it more encouraging, to make sure that anybody anywhere can actually participate, is by changing our attitudes every single day with a little bit of just gumption towards thinking like, I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to actually put out a positive message today. This turns out to be extraordinarily difficult to actually do, because that means you have to reflect on yourself and say, how are you actually going to change the world, your small little world? That means that you have to be the person that's going to stand up and say, I'm going to make this positive change no matter what goes on around me. And this took me a long time to realize and to figure out, and I'm still figuring this out, because if you do research, if you sit in any sort of research environment, what you do is you sit by yourself and you tend to work. This even is in really big labs. You tend to just kind of work there by yourself and toil away at a small idea. I think that this is pretty well known, that it's very isolating in most of the academic game. And what we tend to do is just focus on ourselves. And when we do that, when I go down that cubby hole of really going down that path of really focusing on doing my work, I tend to feel negative often. I tend to feel discouraged often. And so the way that I get around that is I have to intentionally engage. I literally have to tell myself that I'm going to smile today. I am going to look at the world today and engage in it in such a way that I am a positive influence, not on anybody else, because I don't see that many people, but I'm a positive influence on myself so that I can tackle this big day that I have. And when I do that, when I sort of change that conversation that's going on in my mind, it tends to be a little bit better. Now, I know that throughout the day that this is difficult to actually do. Towards the end of the day, I'm pretty depleted. I'm pretty exhausted. But I need to detach and find ways so that I can do good at any given moment. It's very much this really disassociating, not focusing on the now, not focusing on being productive, not focusing on really trying to be the best, but more or less focusing on how can I change my attitude so that I can do good at any given moment. I wish that there was an easy way that I can tell you to actually do this, but you have to figure it out on your own. I think the best thing, there's all these kind of tricks where you can reflect on how grateful you are. That's very difficult for me to do. There's tricks where you try to do a figure eight, for example, with your finger and try to think about things. There's tricks where you try to think about your five senses. Right? There's all these kind of engaging tricks. There's even taking an ibuprofen apparently works to remove the sort of pain that you actually feel. But you have to take a step back and say, I am going to tackle the world. And if I'm going to tackle the world one little day at a time, I'm going to have to try to figure out how I'm going to have a positive attitude and how I am going to change my heart inside. I do feel a lot of negativity often, right? Like that is deep down inside when I actually do this work. It's negative, it's lonely, it's very, very challenging often to sit down and to do that. But if I say, today I'm going to actually tackle this in a positive way, I'm going to know that at moments where I don't feel that good, I need to go take a step out. I need to go for a walk. At moments where it's more challenging for me, I need to walk away, or I need to go do something else, or any number of different things that are very important and healthy to actually do. I think the worst thing that you could do is ignore all of that stuff, because what's going to happen is that you probably will get successful. That was actually, I performed better If I neglected all of that and I focused on just working all of the time, I actually did perform better. But it was at what cost? And that was the key thing. And for me, it's this constant challenge, this constant battle that's in my head, that I'm constantly thinking, okay, I gotta do this, but at the same time, I have to make sure that there's time for me. And so it's this constant tension where one would think it was easier to actually get done, but it's not, because there's these demands that are put on us by some external force. We feel those demands, we feel those stressors, and we are supposed to be a certain way. And so it's our job to fight back against that supposed to. It's our job to say, you know what, I'm going to do the best I can at any given moment and try to be happy when I actually do this. And to me, it is one of the more difficult things that you have to do when you're on any journey where it's you building something, right? So I talk a lot about PhD and academic and research life and undergrads and all that kind of stuff. I do talk about that kind of stuff because they face this. But if you're doing this in any other arena, it's the same feeling. If you're an entrepreneur or any number of things, you have to figure out how to balance this, where you say that I'm going to tackle this problem. I'm going to say that I'm not going to completely buy into the system. I'm not going to completely buy into all of the incentives. I'm not going to get completely absorbed, because that's a short run play to do that. That's a short run performance play that you're going to do really spectacularly well in the short run, better than what you did. Not spectacular, but better than what you would have done. But at what cost? And that's the thing you have to think about, is that there is this tension between performing well and getting that benefit, but at the cost of actually doing that. And it's this balancing act, these trade-offs that are extraordinarily important for us to reconcile and recognize. And if we do that, we treat ourselves like a financial decision, all of us, right? Like your whole, including your heart and all of that soft stuff, is a financial decision where you're saying, I'm going to balance the benefits and costs and try to find the thing that is most profitable or optimized for me. Then you're actually going to perform well in the long run and balance that short run benefit. I hope you understand what I'm saying, but it's about this balancing act that is incredibly important to actually do. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.